Good.
Good.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling wonderful.
I'm so glad.
I'm good. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling wonderful.
I'm tired.
Oh. Commute.
But I just took a nap, actually. Like
that helps.
I got home from something and I was like, I got like an hour. I'm gonna lie down and then I'll get up again for the podcast. So
I mean, I was watching TV.
Yeah. So
you want to know the future? It's like 25 years in Attica.
Shall we just jump it's loud. It's loud.
That's what I was trying. I was trying to turn this down, and I wound up doing the opposite.
You failed. You failed utterly.
Yeah.
Shall we just go?
I mean, is there anything else that we can do? No. Okay, so let's just go.
Okay, just go. Welcome to Curmudgeon's Corner for Saturday, October 5th, 2024. It's just after 2 UTC as we're starting to record. I'm Sam Minter and Yvonne Boas here. Hello, Yvonne.
Hi.
You know, we're going to do our usual. We'll do our butt first of like, you know, non-newsy stuff, and then we'll get into the news after that. First segment picked by Yvonne, then I'll pick the last one, and yeah, that's going to be our normal agenda. But I feel kind of lost, to be honest here, because for the first week in a long time, I don't have like media of like books or movies or TV queued up ready to go. Because, you know, I mentioned on last week's show, I have to do that thing where I go through my phone to like log all the stuff I've finished in the last few months. And I haven't done that. So I've got no list. And, you know, it's one of those things that like I let it go so long when I actually get around to doing it. It takes me hours and hours and hours to like do it. So yeah, I haven't done it yet. So I don't know. I have no idea what I'll even talk about.
You have no idea what you will talk about
for the non-newsy stuff. I mean, I'm just confused and lost.
I mean, we could. How's the weather?
It was okay today. It was nice. Now this is one of those things where, you know, you will be like, oh my God, it was unbearably cold. Because the highs are, let's see, it was 58. The high was 58 today.
Oh, fuck that shit.
If I'm reading this correctly, and it'll be high will be 63 tomorrow. See, now to me, like, you know, this was perfect. I loved it. It was great weather. This is what I like.
Let's see. What is the name of that town that you live in right now?
We're technically an unincorporated Snohomish County between Everest and Everest.
Everest? You're near the Everest?
I'm near the Everett. No, between Everett and Mill Creek.
I didn't realize. I mean, I thought that mountain
was... I am on the slopes of Mount Everest. That's where I live. Yes,
that would be.
I live at one of the base camps.
God, that would be that would be something. But you know, no, I don't. I have no interest in climbing Mount Everest.
Yeah, no, I have no interest in climbing any mountain that isn't just a relaxing stroll to get to the top. I can do a relaxing stroll, or even a decent hike. I'll be honest.
Now that Asheville, North Carolina has been in the news because of what happened with the storm. Personal story, and I guess that didn't be. But I used to go to summer camp around that area when I was little.
Oh, okay.
I did that. I mean, it's the only away summer camp I did was a camp called Camp Highlander, which is just right outside Asheville.
Mm.
And I'm so.
Did you check to see if it still exists?
Oh no, the camp still exists. I know it still exists because I had my nephews actually went to it a few years.
No, I mean like after
after
week.
the storm. I do think that I was looking at the location. And
although I did, it is reasonably possible that any random camp could have ceased to exist in the last like 40 years. But I meant specifically this week.
They are still in business. But I looked at the maps. They are not. They weren't in the path of the worst stuff.
Okay.
Surrounding that, at least based on what I could see. I could be wrong. There's been some areas of information has not been very complete. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is one of the things. I mean, we talked about Helene last week, but we were talking mainly about sort of the coastal stuff because there was still the areas that turned out to have been most heavily impacted in Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee were still inaccessible, and they'd lost power and communication. And sort of after we finished recording, it became more and more clear that those areas were actually the hardest hit, much more than along the coast.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that's been the case. And I was looking at a lot of the towns and places where they spoke about that had the biggest impact. One of them, we're talking about, there's this very big artificial lake called Lake Lure, which is on the Broad River, if I remember the name. And the river went past a town called Chimney Rock, which we used to go very often on the way to Lake Lure, and that got devastated by that. And
real quick, wait, pause before you start again. You sound funny. Can you make sure you're not on your AirPods and that you're on the mic?
I'm
because you kind of sound like you're on your AirPods.
Fuck, I am. Shit. So what do we do now? What? So what do you do now?
I
gotta leave and come back.
Double check. Maybe it'll let you change. If not, then yeah, you have to leave and come back.
You cannot change mic settings.
Okay, leave and come back.
Okay.
You all better now?
Yep, I think we got it's correct now. I don't know.
Okay, sounds a lot better. Okay, sorry. Pick it up where you left off as best you can.
So that area was very familiar in general to me, and the mountains. I've climbed only very few mountains.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that the mountains.
Now, let's be clear by what you mean by that. Like, have you climbed? Well, no, but have you climbed mountains that require special equipment, or are we talking like a strenuous hike?
Mountains that there is no trail, and so therefore to make it to the top, you don't need specialized equipment because they're a few thousand feet.
Are you using no oxygen, of course, but do you need like ropes and like the things you stab into the wall?
But
you have to scramble up rocks.
You have to scramble and grab onto stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And it's not, you're not up a trail. Okay, it's not a simple walk. It took a lot of effort to get to the peak, and I did it probably twice around in the Asheville area. I will say that it was very difficult. The only other place that I did that was in Puerto Rico in order to make it to the peak of El Junque, which there actually, on that one, there are more trails, but near the end, there aren't. And so, while it doesn't require special equipment, it's also not, look, if you can't move, grab, hold on to stuff, basically sometimes in some places go
Yeah,
on your
yeah.
on your knees and like, you're
Yeah,
not
I mean,
going to get to the,
I get the picture. There are like several of this, right? There's like mountains you can get to the top just walking. There's mountains that require the kind of stuff you're talking about. Then
and there's
the
one
kind
that
of
needs special equipment.
then there's the stuff that you need like ropes and the crampons and the thing, and then there's the ones that you need oxygen for.
Right.
So
yeah. So I did also do around that area rock climbing.
Okay. Yeah.
I will say I despise rock climbing. It's a very scary endeavor. For that we needed the specialized equipment and safety lines and stuff.
Right.
The easy rock climbing one, with a lot of difficulty, I was able to get to. There's another one that was very difficult, which I remember that some people got to the top. I don't know how the hell, but I remember that I barely got up, like maybe like 10, 20% up the way. And I'm like, okay, that's it. That's enough rock for me. This is scary enough. I'm coming back down. I'm just going to go back to camp. The hell with this shit. I'm not doing this. This is not worth it. But yeah, it was mostly around that area. And I will also say that the only places that I probably have not the only, but like 90% of the camping that I've done outside was around those devastated areas.
Right.
I will say that camping outside, like in the middle of nowhere, like in a forest or whatever, is cool when it's not raining. I unfortunately, for whatever reason, I don't think I'm exaggerating. More than half the time we went out to camp, it was raining. And camping when it's raining is absolutely miserable. But when it wasn't raining, it was a delight. The weather was nice. We got to pick blueberries in certain places. We made s'mores. We went to these natural, pools occurring in rocks. The streams up there the water was so fresh and clear. Coming down from the mountain. Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was good. So I have very fond memories of that area. And actually, my brother went with me as well, and some other people in my family and friends. It's very hard to see the devastation that that has been wrought on the area, and how people are struggling, and the death toll right now is, already, they said it's up to 200 people.
Yeah, it's like over 220 at this point. Last update I had, but the thing is, there's still lots of people missing. They're still finding people. The number is going to continue to go up from here. We're not at the final.
No, we're not. No, we're not. We're not even close. So, but I did spend a lot of time up there, and I despite some of the weather and stuff, I did learn. I learned to whitewater raft. I canoed. I was pretty good at that stuff, and we did all this stuff. We did horseback riding. We did water skiing. We did I don't know. We did swimming, diving. I don't know why the hell we once had a fucking belly flop competition.
Okay.
I don't know why the hell we do that. I wound up having to do that. That's awful.
Kids.
It's painful. Yeah, we had to do that. We had mud fights. I hate mud. I despise mud. I don't like mud. All of a sudden, all like covered in mud from head to toe, fighting.
Yeah, no. This has never been something that I was interested in either.
So we did these. We did a lot of different events. I will say what interesting thing from one of those trips. So that was the trip that we took buses and we went to Knoxville for the World's Fair from there.
Right. Okay.
Because that was like nearby. And so we did that. And I also that is where I wound up seeing the movie Tron. It was the movie that we were actually supposed to go see E.T., which I think was out around the same time. And we couldn't go see it. And I was like, oh, we get to see Tron. Well, I didn't really want to see the stupid space alien movie. I preferred the one about computers. So we got to go see Tron. And I was a lot happier with that.
I will say, I don't have a movie this time, but, you know, and maybe it hasn't been that long since I've seen E.T. It may even be one of the ones I add to my list. But I will say, thumbs up to both E.T. and Tron. I like both of those movies. I
think I eventually watched E.T. and I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but my preference was Tron. To go watch it. Yeah, they were both out in '82. So yeah. And that was the thing. It was either E.T. or Tron, and we wound up watching Tron. I was very happy about that. I think most people were not. That we wound up at Tron instead of E.T. But I was definitely happy about that. So I had a lot of fond memories from camp. A lot of shit happened. Even fist fights. Oh my God. Why did we wind up getting into so many fist fights at that age? Fist fighting used to be more common. I think we talk about kids like right now at school, whatever. I don't hear that often, even from my nephews or whatever, about kids getting into fist fights at school. And I remember that back then, that was not an uncommon thing.
It probably depends on the school.
I mean, but I'm talking like in general, everywhere. I'm talking, Sam, we got into knockout, drag out, punches thrown, landed, black eyes, black brute fights.
Yeah. I only remember being tangentially involved in one of those ever.
Has Alex ever told you he's been in a fist fight?
Alex, have you ever been in a fist fight at school? He pretended to punch me, but
no, I guess the answer is no.
Okay.
Otherwise he would have heard about this.
He was no longer pretending to punch me. He is actually punching me. Okay, stop.
I'm assuming that if it would have happened, you guys would have heard about it.
I presume so. No, as far as I know, no. Nothing like that ever.
And listen, I talked to my nephews, and that's not very common. And I remember that back then, including in the U.S. or from kids I talked to them in the U.S. or from where I was, that was not that unusual an occurrence.
Instead, they just all cyberbully each other.
Right, they cyberbully each other, and of course, then the ones that get really pissed off wind up coming in and like with AR-15s. And killing everybody.
So no more fist fights, and instead you get school shooters.
Great
trade-off.
Good trade-off. Yeah, sounds like a plan. But yeah, so I don't know. We had a lot of that happening. Horseback riding. Did a lot of horseback riding. That was one thing. I wasn't too bad on a horse. You can't be on a horse. You're very allergic to horses, as we have discovered.
I have ridden a horse once in my life. And it was okay, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't particularly into it. And this was completely aside from many allergy issues. Just the actual activity is like, okay, this was a thing. I did it once. I don't have to do it again.
I must admit, I did like riding the horses. But I don't know. But also, horseback riding is not very convenient.
It depends where you're going.
It depends where you're going, but also where you live. We used to have stables with horses when I was growing up at my grandparents' place. That made it a lot easier. But I don't know. We got rid of all the horses. So when you don't have horses, it makes it very difficult to go horseback riding. So
yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so my anecdote was that, yes, I had spent a lot of my childhood around the area that was a couple of years of a couple of my summers when I was growing up in the devastated area, unfortunately. So I've been probably paying more attention to that than normally I would place because of it, because I just recognize a lot of the places that they are talking about that were affected by it. So,
and the bottom line, I mean, yes, there's been lots of devastation, but also, there were, as people got connectivity back, you got more and more people sharing videos, not just of the aftermath, but what was happening during as well. And just a lot of really scary stuff. Like, I mean, like, somebody like in their kitchen, and all of a sudden you notice that the water outside the kitchen is up past the window, and then the window explodes inward with water. This kind of stuff. And then, and then lots of places that are just, flooded up to people's chest height, and houses floating down the river, all of this kind of stuff. And some of them you've seen on the news with notes that, hey, you saw person who's on the house floating down the river. This is the last known picture of them. They're missing. They're gone. Or there was another where there was like several people like on top of a house that then collapsed. Same thing. Gone. And yeah. So, and I've heard there've been a number of people as well that I've seen on TikTok that like normally post other kinds of content, but turns out either are in Western North Carolina or know people who were and are, like there was one that I was I see regularly on TikTok who posts things about like, Tolkien related content, Lord of the Rings and all that kind of stuff. And she came on and was like, we're fine. We escaped. We got out, but my family is still there. They're okay too, but they have very limited connectivity, and they have like they're running low on supplies and blah blah blah. And like there have been people in my comments complaining that I haven't been posting my regular content, and fuck you,
Jesus Christ.
Because and stuff like this. So
yeah, well. Okay, so that was my buddy.
Your thing? Your thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm panicking. What do I talk about? What do I do?
So the current temperature in Everett is 54 degrees. We have a forecast low of 48. And it looks like the humidity is 91%. This is quite high. Yeah, to be honest. Visibility is 11 miles, and the temperature is 4 degrees below the average daily high that's expected.
Okay.
Feels like 54. Sunrise at 7:14 a.m. Sunset at 6:38 p.m. Special. That's good. Expected. Wind west at 3 miles per hour.
Okay, so Alex is indicating
the air
something.
quality index is 25, which is very good, apparently.
So I am going to talk about something that Alex has actually suggested and came up on our Curmudgeon's Course Slack earlier this week. Last week, I mentioned in passing, as we were talking about other stuff, that I actually do use AI tools regularly at this point.
Oh yes, and somebody,
so
that came
somebody
up
asked me like,
Slack.
what? This is still useless. And so I did say I am mostly using it for coding help. And they indicated, and actually two people, both Bob and Greg, indicated that they never had any success. This is on our Curmudgeon's Corner Slack on using these tools, and it always cost them. It didn't get it right, and it caused them. It was more trouble than it was worth, basically. And so I want to give a little bit of like what I've used it for successfully and the limitations on that, and talk about it a little bit. First of all, like for the most part, what I'd been using it for the last few months is simple scripting stuff, like where I want to have my computer like once a day, check some number, log it somewhere, and send me an alert if it's outside of some parameter. Okay, I do this for how old my backups are. I do this for how full my hard drives are. I do it for a variety of other things. And so, this is fairly simple stuff. I'm asking to do it in a fairly old technology, shell scripts or PHP scripts or whatever. And the total code it's spitting out is, for the basic version, is maybe a dozen lines of code. And if I start getting fancy and like saying, oh, well, I want you to handle this special case, and I want you to do this extra, and I want you to do that. Maybe it's a few dozen lines of code, but it's a single file with a script that does something fairly straightforward. But what it lets me do in that case is basically I can write a couple sentences in English language saying what I want, and it spits it out. Now, does it get it right on the first try? Sometimes, but more often I iterate. And I think one of the reasons I've been able to get useful stuff out of this is I don't come in writing a 2-paragraph description of something complicated I want. I will give it
start with something very basic.
I start with something super simple. Just give me a script that checks this number. And then I'm like, okay, well, now I want you to take that number and log it to a file. Boom. Okay, now I want you to also check that number. And if it's high, do this. Oh, and when you log it to the file, actually, I'd like you to tweak the format and do it like this. Like one little tiny step at a time, not like give it a whole set of instructions. This is how I've generally done it, is one little thing at a time and slowly build up the functionality. Even there, when most of the time I've been doing this, I would actually end up fighting it because it would, like, as soon as it got a little bit more complicated, it would sometimes add the new thing, but forget some of the old stuff. Oops. And spit out a new script that would do the new thing you added, but no longer do what you asked before.
Well, that kind of sucks.
and like, sometimes it would be like, well, just change this code without giving you everything, which, okay, fine. But like, my mode of operation was usually just take everything that it had given me and cut and paste and replace the old script, right? And so once it started saying, replacing parts of the old script with comments saying, leave the stuff alone, that method wouldn't work anymore. You'd have to be careful, or I would have to go back and tell it, no, please give me the whole script and do that. And, that was, it worked okay. But like I said, whenever it would start to get confused more. And so and I've tried, by the way, I started doing this mostly with ChatGPT, and then I switched it. I heard somewhere online, somebody said that Claude was better for this. So I started to use Claude instead. So Claude is, ChatGPT is from OpenAI. Claude is from Anthropic.
Well, how do you spell Claude? C-L-O-D or C-L-A-U-D-E?
That one.
The second one. Okay.
Claude.
No, because a Claude, I'm like, what is it? An idiot? A Claude? I don't know. Okay,
Anyway, so people had said Claude was better, so I switched and was doing mostly Claude, and it was better. But then more recently, and this is only just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I saw people talking about this thing called Cursor, which is basically...
Okay, so you mean Cursor, C-U-R-S-O-R, not C-U-R-S-E-R, which that would be me.
Yes, C-U-R-S-O-R, that's right.
Okay, got it.
Like the thing on your screen. Anyway, it's
double checking.
It's an integrated development environment, so an IDE that basically has editors for the files that also integrates the AI. So it lets you open up the files you're interested in and then talk to the AI in a chat window, but the AI can directly edit the files. So you can tell it which files to have sort of in memory, in context, and it will always have the current version to reference to and make edits to it. So before I had to keep saying, no, stupid. Here's the current version of the file. Please make changes to that and give me the new file. This way, it just makes the changes directly in the editor and does it with what's called a diff. So you can see exactly what it's changing.
Okay.
So one of the problems, I was actually doing this manually. When I cut and pasted into my editor, I was almost like, I was getting so frustrated with what it was doing. That what I was doing was constantly always asking my text editor to do a diff from the new version to what was saved on disk. and I would look through the changes, because this is one of the things, like I could not just trust it and say whatever it gave me, just use it. I would have to go in, look at the diff, see what it was doing, see if it made sense. And then if it didn't make sense, go back and tell the AI, hey, no, what you're doing is messing this up. Please try again, or take this into account. And now with it in Cursor, I could see those changes directly in it. It was sort of automatic, and I could accept or reject each change. And it made it much nicer, and also it could handle editing simultaneously several interrelated files. Like if you have several files that work together to accomplish things, it could handle that and say, make these changes in this file and this changes in that file. And it made it much more useful immediately than using these independently. And in Cursor, you actually can, it integrates with the others. So like I'm looking at my Cursor right now, and it can use GPT-4o, Cursor Small, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, GPT-4o Mini, O1 Mini, O1 Preview.
Which languages?
Well, I have done shell scripts, PHP, Python, and C#.
Well, I was reading this week from a few different ones that related to some development tools that I've heard some company that I know very well has been.
Hold on, stop. Alex just disconnected me. Hold on. Yes, Alex, I will get to talking about the game. But coming and disconnecting my headphones doesn't help. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm back, Yvonne. Go ahead. Sorry.
I have been seeing a whole bunch of stuff coming around, especially like from where I work at, and some other companies related to development tools and things, especially more related to languages, programming languages, where the expertise is like the experts on that are not as available as they used to be. So think
Fortran and COBOL.
Yeah, Fortran, COBOL, RPG, that kind of stuff, stuff for IBM mainframe and stuff and so forth. And I can see how those tools could help people, like somebody like me, for example, that knows some COBOL, but I'm not that good. I was never that good with it.
Well,
okay.
Yeah. Well, this is the,
be able to develop certain things where, I could tell it to do, I could be helping it, instructing it. I could check what it's doing. I know that what it's doing, it's right or wrong. And it could help me, make changes to programs and so forth and so on.
Well, this is a part of the key too. Like I'm mentioning the kinds of things I'm doing. I can get around this, but I am not a professional coder.
Right.
Like this is not what I've built various things sort of by trial and error. I do not follow best practices. I do not know the quote unquote right way to do it.
You're not.
I don't jump in like if I have one of these things.
You don't have your dev test.
Yeah. No, I don't have. No, I do all of this stuff.
Versioning. You're not doing your versioning, Sam. Damn it.
Although with this Cursor thing, one of the things
I heard it's got versioning. Yeah.
Well, no, it's not actually directly doing versioning, but it can integrate with standard versioning tools and make it easy. So I'm like, maybe I should go ahead and set that up. And I'm thinking about it, whereas I never did before, right?
Right. Now you've got the the ability to perhaps do it.
Yeah, I mean, and I always had the theoretic ability. I could have done it, but it's just it's always seemed like too much trouble, right?
Right, exactly.
But if I can do it in a couple clicks, okay, maybe that's fine.
Hey, look, I know companies, okay, all right now that supposedly big companies, banks or whatever, they're making fucking changes into production without even thinking about it. Okay, so. Yeah.
Why would you do anything else? I mean, exactly. I do that all the time on my sites, but like,
exactly.
no one gives a shit about my sites. Is the difference, right? Like,
right.
I mean, I shouldn't say quick tangent. an election graphs note.
Yeah.
I had a couple pieces of feedback via Mastodon within the last few days, and unlike what I mentioned like a few months ago, there was some guy who like ripped me and said I was horrible and whatever. No, these were positive. Well, no, that was like 4 years ago, and Nate Silver had a point. I admit, although he's an asshole, because I've actually since then fixed the thing that he was complaining about. Well, he didn't actually complain about something specific. He just said I had no idea what I was talking about, but it was in response to something that I later was like, yeah, okay, I'll adjust that. Anyway, no, but I had someone mention, I love election graphs and check it way too often, but he found a typo, which I fixed right away. It had only been live on the site a couple hours, but he found a typo and I fixed it. And there have been a couple others where people have been like confused by something and I've answered them, which is nice. But then most recently, this sort of tickled me a little bit. Hi, I'm an undergrad in poli-sci at Iowa State. For one of my classes, we're looking at the Electoral College as an institution, and we're, as a class project, making a website, making our own prediction of the Electoral College. I came across your website, Election Graphs, and I was wondering if it would be all right if I could include the Electoral College map on the website that we're making. Thanks, and best wishes.
No, screw you. Where's my money? Pay me. Pay me, you clown. Dance.
Anyway, I, of course, pointed out that it was released under a Creative Commons license and he could do whatever he wanted as long as he...
You didn't make him dance, you dance, clown, dance.
I didn't make him dance. It's what is it? An attribution, non-commercial share-alike license. So I'm like, yeah, just do that. Anyway, back to the other thing. So here's the thing. Like, I have coded a variety of these kinds of things that I've mentioned before, but it takes me a while. And every few minutes I'm looking up what's the syntax for that again. And I'm looking it up and I'm putting it together. And then I make stupid mistakes and I iterate, and it just takes, this is a lot faster because I'll put in my request and boom, it's spit out 40 lines of code in a few seconds and all of the code is perhaps straightforward. I probably could have done it myself, but boom, it just did it. I didn't have to. And I didn't have to look up anything or check syntax or, and sometimes it's like handling edge cases on its first shot out, whereas I would have been like, fuck the edge case. I'll worry about it if it becomes a problem, and it's already taken care of. But then the thing that Alex wants me to talk about, is that he has been teaching himself game development in Unity through going back and forth with ChatGPT for the most part. So he's been building out all kinds of games of like, he's built a Minecraft clone, he's built a Subnautica clone, he's built a couple platformer games, he's built like a maze game, all kinds of things. He's building all kinds of things. And one of the things he wants me to do on a regular is like when he's working on this, he likes it if I'm sitting at my desk a few feet away, also working on Unity game development. Because he's like, I'm learning this, you should learn it too. Now, this is where the C# I mentioned it comes in. Unity is a game development platform. For those who aren't aware of it, it's one of the two biggest ones. What's the other one, Alex? Unity and... Anyway, it doesn't matter. Unity is one of the two big ones that lots of people use to develop games. And I'm talking like professional game developers use this crap. And
sure.
And I had no freaking clue. He the first time he asked me to build a game, I built some stupid PHP or shell script to do a version of Flappy Bird in ASCII that was just rudimentary and dumb. Okay, I'm actually impressed not to do anything, but and I did that one by hand. But no, he's wanting me to use these tools and use like a real something, and so I'm building this game and same kind of thing, building it up, starting out with something very stupid, very well. Look, I'll be honest, it's still very stupid. Like I've been working on this thing for months. It's still a very basic, very stupid game, but it's actually started to get somewhat like actually entertaining to play. Like when I start playing, like it's got a high score list. Like I spent months just making the high score list work, but like, you know, I actually like play it and I'm like, oh, new high score. And I get excited. And if I don't make the high score, I want to play again. Right. And that's a step forward. Cause like, and at first I dreaded these Unity sessions because I was dealing with trying to get ChatGPT to tell me what to do. And all of the problems that I was talking about before were happening with it, forgetting what I was talking about, with it, you know, regressing and eliminating huge portions of functionality once I've finally gotten them fixed when I added something new, etc. But now that I'm doing it in this cursor environment that can handle multiple files open at the same time and show me the diffs every time, it's just become a lot smoother and easier. And so is this choose to do, like Alex wants me to do this an hour a night every night. That's more than I am like wanting to do, but you know, it's less painful than it was, and I'm actually making faster progress. So in the last week or two since I shifted my tools, I've actually moved from it being a really stupid game that was painful and that I did not enjoy working on to having something that I actually like. I'll admit I've been having fun. And I've enjoyed playing the stupid game. It's still a stupid game, but I've enjoyed playing it and I've been making progress. And I'm like, okay, at some point I'll be like, okay, I want to share this. Let some other people play this and see how stupid my game is. See how well Yvonne can do it, getting it the high score list on this thing, you know?
Oh, God.
I mean, literally it's like it's just a game that's basically about, can you click on things quickly at the right times? That's it. That's the gameplay, right? You know,
I mean, that's not the first game at that. I mean, there's been a few of those. I mean, you know, but you know, I'm sure it's his own flavor of it. But yeah, I mean,
well, my own flavor. Alex's games are sophisticated and like 3D and like this stuff happening. Mine is like, you know, a stupid version of my face pops up and yells at you and you have to click it, you know, so.
Oh, that's really annoying. You know, I remember writing a game to play blackjack.
Yeah.
And, you know, you would bet money and it would accumulate how much you did and blah, blah, blah. You would keep going until you quit. I wrote that in BASIC a long time ago. But I must admit that I have no desire in doing that again.
Well, you know, honestly, I had no desire to do it either. It's something I'm doing with my son. But you know, the thing is, the other thing is the fact that so much of this can be me giving an English language description to an AI and it spitting out something that gets me 80% of the way there is making me think, you know, I've got a little Scratch note file with 3 or 4 ideas of new things I want. Like, you know, I a few years back I built Wiki of the Day.
Sure.
I've built the website for Curmudgeon's Corner that takes the RSS file and builds a website out of it, blah, blah, blah. I've got a few other ideas of things that are like in my head. I'm like, hey, I wonder if that could work. Where I have been before being like, yeah, that would be an interesting idea, but I don't have the coding skills to even like start. And now I'm like, you know, maybe I do, because I still don't have the coding skills to start, but maybe I can start using the AI to sort of jumpstart me, build the framework, and then go from there and iterate. You know, so there are a couple, and these aren't like super complicated ideas either, but they're things where without this tool, honestly, it's unlikely I would ever actually try. Now I'm like, once the election is over and I don't have like election graphs going on and we get to December, January, maybe I'll like take some of these ideas for a spin and see if I can build anything.
Well, I will tell you that, you know, you've got your kid who's coding. I have a friend of mine who also has his kid doing all these intellectual pursuits. My son is very big into farting right now, as far as I can tell. And he thinks the farts are just absolutely hilarious. yeah, I would say that's probably the thing that he enjoys the most right now is farting.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, just to summarize, I think that the bottom line on these AI tools is no, they're not perfect. No, they don't give you the right answer the first time around a lot of the time, but they make it easier to get started and iterate if you do not already know very well what you're doing.
Right.
Like, and so maybe like for Greg and Bob, whose skills are undoubtedly better than mine at these things, maybe they would be a hindrance. But for someone with my level of know just enough to play around, but aren't really good at it, there are a whole bunch of things already that I've done that could I have done without the help? Probably. But the reality is I probably wouldn't have bothered because it would be like intimidating to start of like, oh man, that's going to take too much work. I'm going to have to figure out so much. It's going to take a bunch of time. Whereas with this tool, I can just tell it what I want and it gets me close enough that I'm like, oh, okay, I can iterate on this for like an hour or two and have exactly what I want. And this can be like a project that I can do in an evening, as opposed to a project that I would have to clear out a weekend to even think about, you know? And so it's enabling me to do things that I just would have not
You wouldn't
done.
have been able to do.
I could have theoretically, but I wouldn't have.
Theoretically, but you wouldn't have because it's too time consuming. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would have said, this is too much. It's not worth the effort. Whereas now it's worth the effort. Now, is it worth the however many bottles of water per script that are being used to cool the data centers and all the electricity and blah, blah, blah. And I will admit, I have now paid for the monthly subscription for all three of the tools I mentioned. I am paying OpenAI, I am paying Anthropic, I am paying Cursor, and it started to add up. But none of these companies are profitable yet. They're all they're all burning money at insane rates. They have yet to prove that this kind of task, this kind of thing, can actually be a money maker without destroying the environment completely. But they're developing rapidly, and this is the whole thing of like, they're in that land grab. And we talked a little bit last week about lots of times the first mover companies aren't the ones that end up being the long-term successes, but you know, everybody's in the land grab right now of like, this technology has lots of potential. We can't afford to not be in it.
No, totally. All right. So okay. So
that's it.
That's it. Let's go talk about stuff and things.
Okay. We'll do a break and then we'll come back with Yvonne's newsy segment, and then we'll finish up with my newsy segment. So here we go. Okie dokie. Here it comes. It is just my internet being stupid.
My internet is being stupid is a new song we will make. I'm tired. What's wrong? I'm really tired.
It's amazing.
Show on the road.
There's a road? There's a road? Oh my God, there's a road.
Yvonne's a bit overwhelmed hearing this for the second time.
Oh God, yeah. I'm just, I just mentioned, how my son is into farting, and this is kind of like, I actually fully expect him I've been hearing some of the stuff that he's recording. If I show him this, he might start making some of this.
There you go. There you go. Perfect.
So yeah. All right. So
give him GarageBand on his computer. He can get started.
Yeah. I gotta get him. He actually he's played a little bit with it, but I gotta get him to get a little bit better with it. So okay.
Actually, there's some really good like looping things for the iPhone or iPad where you just have like 6 like recording loops that you can record a loop and add special effects to it, and they're just continuously playing, and you can layer them on top of each other. You can do some cool things really quickly with those. Alex used to play with those a lot.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I need to find some of those recordings and add those as breaks.
There you go. That's not a bad idea.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, Yvonne, what's your topic?
I'm debating here. Let's start with what the fuck is going on in the Middle East right now. Because it's been a week of shit going down. Yeah. I mean, in between Israel.
Let me add just a follow up, because last time we talked about the Middle East, we talked about the pagers blowing up, right. And we were like, why now? Why are they doing it now? There must be more to this story that we don't know yet. And so the things that have come out since then are, well, apparently Israeli intelligence had information that these pagers and the walkie-talkies were about to be exposed. So it was basically you lose it. Like they were on the verge of finding out that this was the case. There were some people that were getting suspicious and were starting to investigate. So basically the Israelis knew that if they let a few more days go by,
the gig was up.
The gig was up. So it was use it or lose it at that point. And then also on top of that, once they did this, then it's like, okay, well,
we declared war on Hezbollah.
Part 2 of the plan, we blow up the pagers, we blow up the walkie-talkies. Okay, then we got to follow up with airstrikes for anybody we missed. And then we got to do a land invasion to start cleaning up the mess. And so that's been the escalation there. And they killed a number of leadership people with the pagers and stuff, but then they killed more, including the top guy, with airstrikes. And then that's when Iran retaliated with their, once again, ineffective strike. And now we are currently waiting to see, okay, what's Israel going to do in response? And that's kind of where we are. And of course, the Gaza thing's still going on the whole time.
Yeah, because
it's connected in various ways.
From the reports of what's been going on related to in Iran after the aftermath of this, is that their leadership has been in disarray related to what the hell
the Iranian leadership.
The Iranian, in Iran. That's why I was in the Iranian leadership, because this entire thing, Hezbollah has been, for the most part, a funded and a creation that Iran really, it was their instrument for them to be basically putting pressure on Israel. Okay, from that front. Hezbollah also is not exactly beloved. One of the things that I was reading that people forget, they were supporting Assad in Syria. Okay, they were supporting him very aggressively. Now, let's not remember how many hundreds of thousands of people died in Syria with support from Hezbollah. Also, Hezbollah is not exactly, how do I say, their methods of ensuring loyalty aren't, they're not buying pizzas for people in order to ensure that they stay in line. In many cases, if people are not, happy. So they've been, very violent. So there is this thing. And the thing is that shit, they got decimated. I mean, from leadership structure on down, this guy had been a leader of Hezbollah for what, 30 years?
Long time.
Long time. And not just him, but they got his lieutenants.
Mm-hmm.
And not just that, but this entire thing that Israel did with compromising their communications has made them completely paranoid about talking to one another, using any form of communication, which makes it very hard. I mean, I can't imagine saying, think about that if I'm at my company and all of a sudden they tell me, well, your phones are compromised, your computers are compromised, your apps are compromised, everything's compromised. So I'm like, how the fuck do I talk to my boss? What am I going to have to do? Do I have to get in a car and drive over there to talk to him? Am I sending notes? What the hell am I doing?
Carrier pigeon.
Carrier pigeons, yes. So it's been very crippling in that sense. And Iran got left with, well, what the fuck did we do? And well, the retaliation they did, which is a retaliation they had done before, which didn't prove to be very effective in terms of having any significant damage to Israel from it, other than, I think one of the things that, and I think they needed to do it because of that from a PR standpoint at home. They need to be shown that they did something. And I'm sure they could spin it whatever the hell way they wanted to. Obviously, they'll tell everybody, oh my God, we decimated Israel. Killed thousands, probably. I'm sure. I don't know. But I see that from that standpoint, when you find out that they thought they were about to be compromised. And I also think, look, this had been in the planning for a while, obviously. This wasn't new. And I also think that Bibi probably pushed forward with it in such an aggressive way because I'm pretty sure this proved to be popular for him at home to have done this. And this is a guy like Trump that is also running to try to stay out of jail.
Yep.
And so, and he figured that Hezbollah had so many people that hated it that in terms of that, well, we'll probably get away with this because everybody hates them anyway. So I think that was part of the calculation. Now, obviously the concern has been, what the hell is this going to do with the Middle East that right now has all of a sudden Israel going and attacking in Lebanon with the situation in Gaza? Now, here's the interesting thing aside from this. So the Hamas leadership, their leader, was seen that he was talking today that he's not looking for peace either.
It seems like leader, no one is really.
No, yeah, pretty much, which is part of the problem with this. He has said that he's blocked the ceasefire deal and has been frustrated that Hezbollah and Iran have not come to his aid. So Hamas is really pissed off that they haven't come in and been all the way in on his strategy either. By the way, this whole thing, this goes back to part of the reasons why Hamas did this. They felt that everybody, forget about Israel, that
everyone was ignoring them, screwing them, whatever.
We're like fuck you, we'll use Israel when we want.
Yeah, Israel was making peace with Saudi Arabia and all of these other Gulf states, and we need to get attention back on us. One of the things too, I said nobody's interested in making peace. I did see one interesting statement. I think it was from the Jordanian foreign minister or something like that.
Yeah,
basically saying, Israel keeps complaining there are no partners on the Arab side that want peace and want to recognize the state of Israel, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, look, I'm at this conference of Arab leaders right now. And I'll tell you right now, we are all here. We are ready to do that right now if we go ahead with the two-state solution for the Palestinians and make that real. And this gets to and I think he even said 1967 borders, right? And this is the fundamental core of the problem, which is that vision of what the future looks like is something that Israel is not willing to even remotely contemplate.
Right now, they're not contemplating that. Right.
And so
that was on the table maybe like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, but it's gotten like completely pushed off the map. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and this is one where like even the sort of, you can blame it on Netanyahu, but even like the populace at large, for the most, that solution does not have majority support right now.
Well, of course. I mean, in large part,
especially after October 7th.
Well, it's a reason why Netanyahu has been leader for so long, is in part because it's just lost the support it had, in the past.
And as we've talked about, there was a moment in the 90s where that looked right on the verge of being possible, but that moment was lost. Yeah. And so what you have, like in terms of the peace negotiations, for instance, I've heard someone say, for instance, on the Hezbollah side, well, Hezbollah is not interested in a peace agreement. Well, the problem is Hezbollah wants an agreement that includes Gaza, not just what's happening in Lebanon.
Right.
And in terms of Gaza itself, Hamas wants a solution that involves Hamas continuing to exist. Israel's baseline statement is we want Hamas to be destroyed utterly. So of course you're not going to have Hamas is not going to agree to a peace settlement that involves their own destruction.
Right.
And so and Israel is not, bending at all on their ultimate goal. They're not willing to.
Let me be clear.
Basically,
Hamas
Israel
is not renouncing. Hamas is not renounced. Also,
I know.
Want the elimination of Israel either.
No, they're not. And so basically, you end up in a scenario where both sides are basically saying, yes, we'll agree to peace once we have completely won.
Right. Great. That sounds. This sounds like a fight with a spouse. Yeah, let's try. Hey, I will, agree with you if you completely capitulate. How the hell does that go? Okay. Usually winds up in a divorce. Okay.
No, Yvonne, the answer is she's right. Doesn't matter. She's right. That's how that ends.
That's how that ends as well. Yeah. Well, either winds up with she's right or winds up in divorce court, basically.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the only scenarios here.
This is one of those areas where you kind of you wish if you had godly powers, you wish you could just take these parts of the world and just pick them up and separate them and put them on opposite sides of the planet and say, okay, leave each other alone. Time out. You have, but you can't do that. You can't actually lift up whole countries and move them.
I just saw somebody.
And you certainly can't move the populations, because that's all. The whole ethnic cleansing idea is we'll take you out of here and we'll move you to Suriname or something. No,
Siberia. I don't know. Whatever. Look, I just saw somebody make a joke and send out this map of the Middle East without any of the borders drawn, and just say, "Hey, you draw them up better." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's
the whole fucking problem, is that all the colonial powers drew stupid arbitrary lines 100 and some years ago. And
of course, the problem is that all these fucking lines are always stupid, arbitrary lines anyway. It's the fucking conflict. Listen, I've got conflicts with Colombia and Venezuela and Guyana and Argentina with
bring back the goddamn Ottomans.
Yeah, exactly. Bring back the Ottoman Empire. That's really what we need. We fucking missing the damn Ottoman Empire. That really would clear things up a lot. Yes. Why don't we have the Ottoman Empire back? Was the Ottoman Empire any good? I don't even know.
Well, it was one of those things where actually during its height, it was well known, and they were tolerant. They were a place where like all kinds of science and technology was flourishing. There were aspects of religious freedom even there. There was all kinds of things. Like most empires, as they went into decline, things got worse and worse, and there were problems. And then, which is why the damn thing like fell apart in the end.
Well, it was an absolute monarchy from 1299 to to 1876, and then there was some small periods of parliamentary constitutional monarchy. And then there was a triumvirate dictatorship, which is a kind of word. I really like the sound of that. I don't
triumvirate dictatorship.
I don't like conceptually what it is.
So Yvonne, who's our third? Who's our third? Who do we go with to finish our triumvirate?
For a triumvirate, you know what? I'll draft back Rebecca. She would be good she would be good at a dictatorship.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Rebecca would be great at a dictatorship. Plus her kick your or mine asses all regularly at the regular time.
I'm fine with the three of us being a triumvirate dictatorship for the world. We will start by the whole damn world is going to UTC. Damn it!
That's the first act. I like
that's the first act. We're done.
And the metric system.
And the metric system. Yeah. SI units.
Yeah, and the metric system. And so anyway.
Anyway, yeah. Obviously, that is a joke. I do not actually want to be dictator of the world. Just to be clear.
I don't really want to be dictator of the world, but but I guess the Ottoman Empire, fell, and so now we've got this mess. It was a long time if you think about it. Jesus Christ! I mean, 1299 basically to 1922.
Yeah,
it's a long time. So, but we really, did a terrible job of whatever the heck we did after that. I'm sure that, it was an absolute monarchy. I don't know. I mean, people were generally in the, 12, 13, 14, 15, 1600s, especially, they lived in misery. It
was not alone in being an absolute monetary. It was not alone in being an absolute monarchy during those centuries.
No, not at all.
That was the norm.
That wasn't an outlier. That was the norm. No, but I do think that, we forget that during that time period, all across the world, unless you were royalty and you were in the royal class, you basically lived like shit.
Well, and even then, I mean, some people have brought up comparisons. Like, would you rather be in the bottom 20% income-wise in the United States today, or be the king of France 500 years ago? Pick the bottom 20% today. You're still better off
than the king of France.
Just imagine healthcare back then. Just imagine nutrition, cleanliness. Like, okay, fine.
I mean, your life
expectancy is low.
40. Yeah.
No, pick the poor person today over the richest person in the world hundreds of years ago.
That's true. Yeah. It's a good point. It's a good point. The Ottoman Empire. So, well, it's gone, and so that's not the solution for the Middle East. So, I listen. My biggest concern with this whole thing is an escalation. At this point, obviously, I would like to get peace at some point. But look, I mean, Hamas guy doesn't want a peace. Bibi doesn't want peace. Nobody wants peace. I mean, Hamas didn't want peace in the first place. One of the things they launched this.
One of the things I heard someone mention, I don't know, a week or two ago, like as this was spinning up, and I have no idea who said this. Sorry, it was some random person on Mastodon, but it stuck with me. It's like a significant portion of what is going, like, what's the right way to put this? Biden's number one priority in dealing with the Gaza situation has been preventing escalation. You could say that's his number one priority in Ukraine too, by the way. And that take on things that, hey, above all else, keep it from escalating further, is part of what's pissing a lot of people off, because they want to see more active intervention, more like force Bibi to do this, or or on the Ukraine side, let them use the weapons more broadly inside Russia or whatever. And there's a trade-off with, look, it's an impossible situation. Here's the bottom line. It's an impossible situation. Like, if you had Biden, let's forget Ukraine for a second. We're concentrating on the Middle East. Let's say he went in there and right off the bat said, okay, we're cutting off all arms shipments to Israel. Well, okay, you've just given up all leverage whatsoever over the situation.
It's just what we said. Yeah.
Maybe your leverage doesn't appear to be working all that great anyway. But if you did that, you have zero.
I'm with you.
And then maybe you do get the escalation. And so, okay, you can envision, okay, the priority being get the hostages out, ceasefire. Okay, I understand that, but like, different spin on everything. If your number one concern is how do we keep this from spiraling into something where every country in the fucking Middle East is at war with each other, and that is in the realm of possibility here. And so far, the lid has been kept on that, and it's been horrible for Gaza. And it ain't that great for Lebanon, and it isn't even that great for Israel.
No.
But so far, we don't have an all-out war with everybody. And you could see scenarios where that happens. Maybe some of these missiles from Iran actually get through. I mean, some got through, but there was no significant damage. I believe there was one person killed, and they were a Palestinian, so the Israelis don't care. Unfortunately. But you could see a situation where maybe one of these missiles got in and actually did significant damage. Israel retaliates now in a way that seems disproportionate, and other countries feel like they have to jump in, or you just end up with all out land war between several of these countries, and Jordan feels like they have to get involved, or Egypt, or what, or Saudi. There are all kinds of ways this could spiral. So far, the lid has been kept on it. And if you are in one of the areas that is directly affected, it is horrible. The situation in Gaza for the last year now, we're 2 days away from the anniversary, for the last year has been inexpressibly bad for civilians. Forget about Hamas. For civilians, inexpressibly bad. The number of dead and injured and displaced is insane. And I agree with the folks that it's disproportionate in a way that is not actually justified. Yes, Israel needs to defend themselves, but this is way past the boundaries of what a proportionate response would be. But it hasn't expanded. We haven't gone outside these areas, and to some degree, it's always hard to claim as an accomplishment the absence of a horrible counterfactual. But actually is an accomplishment that it hasn't escalated. I don't know. But it's always weak sauce when you say, well, it could have been worse.
No, yeah. Yeah, we didn't nuke them.
I mean, it's pretty damn bad, but it could have been worse.
Well, we could have nuked the hurricane. Apparently, MTG says that we can control the weather.
Yes.
Did you not see this? That we can control the weather.
I'd seen this, and specifically, and yeah, we can save this for the politics section. The bottom line is she thinks it's a Democratic plot to suppress votes in Republican areas.
So we targeted the hurricane to go through the red areas.
Yes.
I didn't know we were that smart. I mean, if we were that fucking smart, you know what? If we're that good, do you know the other shit that we could be doing to make sure that we win this fucking election? You know, I mean, you know, how, you know, there's a lot of other shit.
Okay. Anything else you want to sum up on the Mideast before we move on?
No, it's just, you know, every time we talk about this,
it's just depressing.
It's depressing because there's just, you know, can we find a viable solution? No. There is no viable solution given the people involved right now that we could say, okay, this has a chance.
You know, it makes the sort of colonial mind. I mean, we talked about the Ottoman Empire. It makes the colonial mindset tempting, and I realize that probably would cause more trouble, not less. But it makes you want to say, screw them all, bring in a UN protectorate, take over the entire region, and just impose peace by force for several generations, and hopefully it'll stick.
And that we'll set back the borders. No, I get that. I mean, I don't know. Look, even, you know, one of the things that happened with the Iraq War and in Libya is that even with all the oppression that Gaddafi and Saddam did, many Iraqis and Libyans have both expressed, oh my God, it was better than this fucking mess we live in now.
Well, and also what I just described is effectively what we tried to do in Afghanistan that we eventually got out of, which we sat there with troops propping up a government that did not have the level of native support to last on its own, and sort of imposed a peace on certain parts of Afghanistan that we maintained in control as long as we were right.
It didn't take.
It didn't take. Like, if you were in the bubble that was protected during the time of that bubble, you were okay for a while. But in the end, it's like you couldn't sustain doing it forever. And it was not really, yeah. In the end, people have to control their own destinies. You cannot impose from outside solutions like that. It doesn't work.
Well. Look, after World War II, we did impose some of this on certain places that had been at war for a long time. But with quite a lot more resources than we would ever be willing to commit to that. I mean, let's be clear. The Germans and the French had been at war twice fucking, you know, inside 40 years. And well, okay, so we occupied fucking Germany. We fucking partitioned it. We fucking, you know, basically purged everybody. We created elections. I mean, we purged everybody at the top. One of the things that we didn't do again was a lot of the administrative functions below that were kept, which was the mistake I heard many talk about in Iraq, where, oh, well, we have to de-Ba'athify. So we got rid of all the structures under Saddam.
Right.
And they argued that was the biggest mistake and why there was so much chaos post a war.
And to be clear, we still have a military presence in both Germany and Japan 80 plus years later.
Right. 80 plus years later.
Now, we're not at war with either country. It's not a contentious relationship for the most part, but, you know, we're still, it's not like
we've never left.
We've never left.
Yeah. So,
okay. Shall we take a break?
Let's take a break.
We'll be back after this.
You're supposed to say do. Do. Alex Amzela! Alex Amzela is awesome. Its videos are fun. And today, once again, we have one of our most loyal subscribers here to tell you how awesome Alex Emsel is.
I'd say on a rate from 1 to 10, Alex Emsela is awesome at, I don't know, 37, 82. He's pretty radical. His videos are phenomenal. They're full of creativity. And
they're so funny and exciting to watch.
Wow, what happened to your voice then, Amy? Was that Dad pretending to be you because the audio was distorted when it really wasn't because I told him to?
Yes!
Good job on remembering, Dad. Do.
Okay. We are back, and so, of course, I'm going to pick election 2024 and everything related to it, my topic.
Can I just say something about the fucking election?
Okay, yes.
Go
ahead.
You had sent this note related to what was happening in the year 2016 and what the cover of the New York Times was talking about back
Wait,
then.
I did? What? Oh, yes, I remember this.
Did.
I remember.
Yeah,
I forwarded some article or some note from somebody who made a point about that. When I share things, by the way, it does not necessarily mean I am endorsing him. It just means I think it's
no. I realize that, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because I realize one of the things that I know that he was complaining about the coverage of giving to Trump, but man, it's just the shit that has happened, like just in the last week that Trump has said. Okay, just the last week. He literally went on a speech last weekend and advocated a purge. And yes. So a purge, I mean, this comes from the movie called The Purge. Okay, literally. That was like
never seen it. I guess I have to add it to my list now.
I don't think I've seen the whole movie. Okay, all right. I think I flipped through it once when it was on one of those linear channels. Okay, it was out like 10 years ago. But the main concept of the movie was that there would be one day a year when all crime would be legal, like literally all crime.
Okay.
So say on that day, if I wanted to murder you, Sam, I could do it that day and it would be legal. Okay,
it'd be legal, right? Yeah.
Yes. I could not be prosecuted for doing that. And people are speculating the way that he talked about it. It's like, I guess he just watched this week. So, because now we're off Hannibal Lecter, okay, which I haven't heard him refer to like recently.
In a few little bits. Yeah.
And now we're on to a purge where basically he wants a day that in the U.S., where you could commit any crime, and it would be legal. So
just to be clear, that is not directly what he said. That's how people are interpreting what he said.
No.
Wait. What he said?
Of a limited legal violence. That all laws were suspended. And
the all laws.
The way that
he just said a very violent day. Read the quote. Read the quote.
The quote, but and it was like, he described what the fucking purge was in the movie.
Yeah, he didn't go into that level of detail.
He didn't say
he just said we could take care of the problem with a day
just having a very violent.
He said a very violent day. Yes.
Right.
He did not go through and it should be legal and blah, 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 blah. But he didn't say all that. He just said we could take care of all kinds of our problems by just having a very, very, very violent day to take care of.
Yeah. So I mean, we're all speculating that he must have watched The Purge in recent days. But look, my whole point is.
Yes, you have a point.
Yes. In our lifetimes, if any other politician would have gone on the campaign trail and advocated for this, I mean, the next day they would have been, their candidacy would be over.
There are so many things that Donald Trump has said or done that, going back all the way to 2015, where if anybody else had said or done that thing, they would be gone the next day.
It would be over.
Like there are hundreds of things in that category.
Thousands. Actually,
thousands.
I'm sure it's thousands.
Yeah. And yet here we are.
And yet here we are. It's just mind-boggling. And then during this week, add to that, his wife came out and said that she is pro-choice.
Right.
And I'm like, she hasn't been on the campaign trail with him for I don't know how long. She's written a fucking book and has come out gung-ho pro-choice. And I'm like, what in all fucking hell? I mean, when it ever had you seen the wife of a candidate, first of all, not appear for months because nobody has she's not made a single fucking appearance. She didn't even go to the fucking convention with him. Okay.
Right.
I mean, and now when she comes out 1 month before the election, she is diametrically opposed to one of his primary accomplishments that he has, tooted his horn about during this campaign. And she's basically just come out against him. And it's like nobody cared either.
Well, some people I've heard talking about how actually this is, once again, Trump doing 5-dimensional chess because it softens the Republican position on abortion because, hey, look, here's somebody who's pro-choice that is still presumably voting for her husband. Although I would not bet on that, actually.
We're not sure about that.
Okay, so let me get it.
How the hell? How? What the fuck did we do wrong? What did we do wrong, Sam?
To get on to deserve this timeline?
Yes! What the fuck did we do wrong? I don't understand.
Okay, just to clean up loose ends. First of all, the article that Yvonne was referring to was called Election Countdown, 32 Days to Go, 2 Contrasting Front Pages from James Fallows, published on his Substack on October 3rd. And it basically looks at the New York Times from when they were blasting the whole thing about the Clinton email scandal versus, we had the unsealing of new evidence in Donald Trump's January 6th case. And it's a much, much smaller little thing on the New York Times. But, excuse me, hold on.
Nice.
But I want to start with, as usual, the election graph stuff, just to give a poll update of where we are. So, first of all, we still have the same 7 too close to call states, essentially. Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. Those are the key 7, and they are still, as of this moment, 2% or less in margin. However, the main change since last week is, first of all, national polls, about the same. Not any significant change over the last week. But in state polls in those particular states that I just listed, the ones that matter, there have been a bunch of good polls for Trump in the last week. And so we've moved from too close to call, but with a slight edge for Harris, to too close to call with a slight edge for Trump at the moment. Because right now, in my averages, Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina have all flipped over, are all now on the Republican side. North Carolina was before, but Michigan, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, I believe, were slightly on the Harris side when we talked a week ago. Now they're slightly on the Trump side. But I honestly, the bottom line is they're right on the edge. Like the difference between a state being 1% on the Trump side versus 1% on the Harris side is really not that much. Like the very next poll that comes out can flip it back to the other side. Bottom line is they're still too close to call. Again, like if I took my naive method that I've used since 2008 of just do the poll averages, and any state that's under 5% margin could go either way, that gets you a range. It does have right now, if everybody wins the states they're ahead in, has Trump ahead by 32 electoral. The range of possibilities is from Harris winning by 174 to Trump winning by 86. So massive range of possibilities that include both sides winning. If you look at my probabilities, which look at how far off polls were from the final results in the last 4 election cycles, so 2008, 2012, 2016, and 2020. One thing that's happened is I added a couple months ago a version of accounting for time left before the election, because before that I only had if the election was today. Those two have now pretty much converged. Like a month ago, like there was a lot of additional room for change that basically said, hey, a lot can potentially change between August and November. Well, now they're going like, you only got a month left. Things tend not to change as much in the last month. So they're more saying like, well, okay, what you see is what you're going to get, probably. Now, things do change in the last month. Specifically, we all remember the last 2 weeks in 2016, the picture changed entirely.
I'm sorry. 2016 at this point, like we had
Hillary was still way ahead. Thing. Yes. Think like the right news event can like explode everything and change everything. You had in 2016, we were talking about crazy stuff happening right now. In 2016, we had Access Hollywood. We had the Comey letter. We had a drip of letters from Clinton emails or emails from Clinton. But you know what I mean. You had a bunch of things happen that potentially would make a big difference, and the Comey letter specifically moved things quite a bit just in the last 2 weeks. So I'm not saying at all things can't happen. It's just the room for things to change is getting smaller because we just don't have that much time left. And the other difference is people have always said, when people really start to tune in is after Labor Day. Guess what? We're now well after Labor Day. Like, so, there's lots and lots of rooms for things to change around before Labor Day, but now things are settled down. If you look at my charts, there was this big move towards Harris when she first took over. But since then, things have just been bouncing around, like within a range, essentially. Now, we are at the worst point for Harris at this point in the state polls since the first week she was in. I will say that wait,
polls that came out.
I was about to say this.
Okay.
Like, just as an example, let me give you the 5 most recent polls in Pennsylvania, who they were from.
Right.
On Message, Patriot Polling, Emerson, Trafalgar, and Atlas Intel. Of those, Emerson is the only one that's sort of a well-known pollster.
Right.
And they've been an outlier on the Trump side this cycle. They've been more Trumpy than other polls, even though they're a well-known, respected pollster. All of the others are small little no-name pollsters, some of which have known rightward leans.
Right.
So it is very possible that the next batch of polls that comes out will be in the other direction.
That's what I was saying, because
this is where I get to the whole thing of like all of these, like if you're trying to make a distinction between the polls averaging out the poll, not just the individual polls, but the poll averages between having one candidate up by 1% and having the other candidate up by 1%, no. Like we just don't have that level of precision. Since during the month of September, okay, we have had polls in Pennsylvania ranging from Harris up by 6% to Trump up by 3%.
It's nutty. It's just nutty. It's nutty. And the thing is that as this era, the last few election cycles has continued with the how do I say it's this entire partisanship that has been inserted into polling. We keep seeing these swings now where it's, oh, wait, we get all these polls from, all these right-wing polls. You shift the election towards the other side. Then you get the other polls. And you get some straight polls. And there's also some partisan Democratic polls as well.
Absolutely.
That are there as well. And it really, it seems to me that a lot of the times, a lot of these Republican pollsters, they're synchronizing when they're launching all of these at the same time because they understand how the models work. And what
we did have a news article this last week that I really should have paid more attention to, but it was basically some evidence came out about Rasmussen in particular, actively coordinating with the Trump campaign on what they were polling and when they were releasing it.
Had to be. It has to be. They're coordinating in order to launch these polls at the same time in order to give people, hey, look, we're doing better. And so I think that's a lot of the bullshit that's going on. And so it's very, but like you said, the whole point is, like I've seen a lot of the pollsters or whatever, is that we are where we are, where it's a razor thin margin, and we could be facing another fucking Trump term. It's a reality.
We could.
It's just and it's all
at this. I had mentioned my allowing for time left was converging with if the election was today. But my bottom line right now at this very second with my current poll averages, I'm only giving Harris about 0.25%, like between 22 and 25% roughly. So I am favoring Trump, but not by an overwhelming margin. 25% ain't nothing. That's a decent chance. So it's still, I would consider a toss-up unless that number gets down to like 10% or something. But like it's still too close to call, and it's very, very volatile.
It's very volatile. That's the problem.
All of this depends. There are so many states that are so fucking close. It's like, if Pennsylvania, if like you said, if there are a few more polls that are, if we have another couple polls that have Harris,
it swings in the other way.
It swings in the other way. So I'm looking at this point at how much things are going back and forth, and
Sam's estimating 25%. Other ones are like, I was looking at the decision.
They're all over the place.
They have it 54%, Harris 48, which is basically a fucking toss up. Yes. You're looking at it. I mean,
and by the way, like if my thing is very, very sensitive. Like if we get, like it was a week ago. Let's see. Let me not lie. I have the actual number here. Here we go. Just comparing now to a week ago. 1 week ago, I had Harris's shot at 50%. Now I have it at 25.
Right.
And it could easily go back to being 50% with just a handful of polls in the right states moving it the right direction.
Yeah.
And so all we can really say is it's really, it's, and I made the distinction last week and I'll make it again today. It's not saying that the result will be in on election night. It could be either side winning by a decent margin. What it is it's close enough that we don't have the skill through polling to tell the difference, to tell who's leading. We have to wait till election night. and it could end up being razor thin, and we're waiting for like a week to find out who won.
It could wind up being a blowout, and we're like,
yeah, I mean, like the other part of this, the average in Florida is down to Trump being only ahead by 2.9%. Right. Harris could win Florida. If Harris wins Florida, it's all fucking over.
This would be the craziest fucking outcome. The fucking Harris wins Florida. I mean, you man. I mean, you know, oh god.
As long as you don't do the hanging Chad thing again, and everything's up to Florida, and you mess up the election.
This will not happen. Look,
I know you fixed it like 20 years ago, but yeah.
Listen, but listen, the newer machines that we've got now are, man, this is, you get not just that you have the ballot, there's printed receipts there. Okay, so you, if you want to go to a recount, you have the computer result, okay, tabulated. You have the scan result and a receipt. I mean, you have a triple redundancy here in Palm Beach right now. No fucking way it's happening. Okay. So, yeah, we're covered on that respect.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, the bottom line is they're just so like all 7 of these goddamn states, and Florida's not that far off.
No,
are just right. We don't know. We don't know which way Michigan's going. We don't know which way North Carolina's going. We don't know which way Georgia's, etc. Like, and that's enough that it could be a decent sized win for either side. Could happen.
And of course,
we just
stories. I'm seeing this story how people are giving Allred a chance to beat Ted Cruz.
Oh yeah, that one's within like a few percent too.
Right,
like, at this point, like Allred's still behind in the polling, but just barely.
I mean, that would be holy shit. Honestly, I despise Ted Cruz so much that's one where if I got a chance to go over, if I had some time to go over to Ted Cruz and make fun of him in front of his face after he lost, I would take the opportunity to do that.
So, and this also
is that too petty? Is that not? Is that too petty?
Yeah. You can leave Ted Cruz alone.
No,
but
go in front of his face and go say, "Hey, sucking loser."
Yes. Okay. You distracted me with this Ted Cruz stuff. I had something else I was going to say.
Oh God, well, that's an age issue. It's not my fault. Don't blame me for this.
I mean, you put in front of me the dancing image of Ted Cruz, and I can't look away. Anyway, just wrapping up polling, I guess. One of the things that, and I was looking for the exact quote, I think I retweeted it or whatever on Mastodon, but I can't find it right now, is like, if polling says that somebody's going to win by 20% and they end up winning by 18, nobody gives a shit. You got the winner right.
Yeah.
But if it's the difference between saying one person is ahead by 1 or the other person is ahead by 1, it's the same amount of error. But suddenly everybody cares and like, oh my God, polling is awful. Nobody knows anything. Blah blah blah. And you hit the nail right on the head. That's the issue that you've got right now. That it's so razor thin that you can't even say, with any certainty who will win because it's that close. Right. And yeah, we've been through before, like, there are all kinds of reasons to think this time the polls are underestimating the Democrat, unlike the last couple years. But and actually, if you started to waterboard me and asked me, I'd say, yeah, the polls are probably underestimating Harris right now. But do I have a level of confidence about that I can say, is it enough to make me feel, this is in the bag, we're fine, everything will be fine, Trump will be done, he'll be in jail next year? I can't say that. I cannot, with any confidence at all, say that right now. No. Like, I look at that and I'm like, it's so tempting to start coming up with all the reasons why polls are probably underestimating Harris. But I feel like I cannot trust that I'm not just using motivated reasoning because that's what I want to see.
Yeah,
you know?
I know.
So, okay. Despite moving on from polls to finish up other election stuff.
What are the
I mentioned briefly.
We have
the debate and the January 6th filing. And,
right, there was a debate.
Turnout
I forgot
version
about that.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about turnout versus persuasion as well. But I guess chronologically, the debate was first. We had Walz and Vance. Basically, at the time I called it sort of a draw. Walz seemed nervous throughout. Vance seemed really confident. Of course, he was lying the whole fucking time, but he seemed really confident. He also he put on a nice act, and apparently that partially threw Walz off because they were expecting him to be all combative, and instead he was
the usual asshole. I know.
And he was being super friendly instead, and so that threw things off. And the Harris campaign had been putting out for a couple weeks, hey, Walz isn't that great at debates, but they always, every campaign always puts out that their candidate isn't that great at debates to try to get the
debate. Nobody gives a fuck. I mean, let's be clear about this. The VP debate, but nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Somebody pointed out, the biggest slam dunk moment in any VP debate ever was Lloyd Benson's "You are no Jack Kennedy." And did Lloyd Benson end up vice president?
No, he did not. They got crushed.
No, he did not. And so he crushed Dan Quayle at that debate and made no difference whatsoever.
Made no damn difference whatsoever. Not one iota. So
now, and I put this as a draw anyway, but a lot of commentators were saying it was sort of Vance was winning on points up until the very end, but then Walz did a knockout punch with the January 6th stuff. He did have a good thing, and they put it into some commercials and stuff. But bottom line is what you said: VP debates don't matter. The presidential debates usually don't matter very much. The whole thing with Biden this time around is the most consequential presidential debate we've ever had in our lives.
In our lifetimes,
But usually debates don't matter, period. End of story, regardless. At most they give a temporary bump of a week or two. I don't. And in this case, the VP debate was on Tuesday night, and Wednesday the special counsel released their report, and everybody stopped talking about it immediately. So
and they talked about the special counsel report for 15 minutes.
Yes. And this is what I was going to say about the special counsel report. First of all, I predicted last week that we would, there would be new details, but the fundamental story doesn't change. And that's exactly what we had. There were new details, some of which are interesting details. We have Donald Trump saying, stop. Hold on. We have interesting new details. We have Donald Trump saying, who cares, or whatever the hell it was he said when they told him about Mike Pence.
He said, who cares?
And we have a more clear examples, a deluge of them, lots and lots of examples showing that Donald Trump absolutely knew he lost. We've got all kinds of things like that, but fundamentally the story doesn't change. And I turned on Fox News for a few minutes after this came on, and basically that was the story. It's hey, this is old news. It's politically motivated. There's nothing really new here. And then 15 minutes later, they moved on. CNN kept at it for a little bit longer. MSNBC kept on it for a little bit longer than that. But by the time we got to 4 or 5 hours after this, all of the news networks had moved on to other things. They would reference it a bit, and they would still talk about it some, but they'd moved on to other things. They weren't doing wall to wall. And anyway, and the kind of voters that you might care to reach with it aren't the ones that are paying attention anyway. Anybody who's really paying attention to this stuff. I mean, part of the spin on Fox News was clearly, and I think they're actually right about this. They didn't say this explicitly, but it was sort of implied by the way they were talking about it, is that anybody who really cares about this stuff was already voting for Harris anyway.
Right.
And yeah, that's true. Now we have talked about, like, does this demotivate any Republicans? Maybe on the margins, but it's so damn close. The margins matter, right? So any little thing could make a difference. I did see, excuse me. I did see a couple of focus groups, and we've made fun of focus groups and who they picked before and stuff like this. But at least one person saying that, Vance's response on January 6th actually did make a difference to them. Like, he went out and would not admit that Donald Trump lost, and that made a difference to them as a voter. I don't know. Like, one of the reasons to think Harris might be underestimated is this sort of enthusiasm gap where Republicans seem to be a lot less excited about Donald Trump than they were 4 or 8 years ago, whereas people seem to be really excited about Harris. And so that's where this kind of thing potentially could make a difference, is like just reminding people that this existed at all. And it's not so much the filing itself, but like Harris is putting it in commercials in swing states, reminding people about January 6th and including some of these new bits of evidence and things Trump or Vance have said maybe and stuff like that. And maybe those commercials in the swing state will make some differences on the margins and maybe not convince any Republicans to vote for Harris, although there are anecdotal reports of a few, but just, make some of these disillusioned Trump people just stay home. And this is where I want to jump into the turnout versus persuasion thing. The Harris campaign is still doing a lot of persuasion. Like they had joint events with Lynn Cheney, not Lynn Cheney, Liz Cheney. Lynn is her mom. Yeah. And anyway, with Cheney, had a joint event. Not Dick. But it had a joint event. So basically saying, hey, look, and there have been a bunch of sort of Republicans for Harris that have been out on the campaign trail, basically trying to convince people and speaking at the convention and blah, 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 trying to convince Republicans that, hey, it's okay. You can vote for Harris and still be a good Republican. You know Trump is bad. Come on. Trump is bad. The quote from the convention was, voting for Harris doesn't make you a bad Republican. It makes you a patriot, or something like that. You can go back to arguing about policy once the danger of Trump is gone. And maybe you get a few Republicans to defect that way. But I think with things mapping out the way they are, I think at this point, you got to do both. You got to do both persuasion and going for turnout. But I think the emphasis needs to be on turnout at this point. It needs to be get out the people who don't try to convince people who voted for Trump the last 8 years to vote for Harris. Maybe you'll get a few of them. So I shouldn't say don't try to. Sure, try to. But the emphasis should be
most
on
of your energy on those.
Yeah, don't spend most of your energy on that. Spend most of your energy on getting out the damn vote. Getting out Democrats who aren't, like, there are a lot more Democrats excited now than were under Biden, but there's still a bunch, and you hear them whining on social media about, like, Harris's policy on Gaza and Israel, for instance, or, she's not progressive enough for me, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Or just people who like are convinced that their vote doesn't matter, so why bother? Get those people out. That's where I think you've got more bang for the buck going after those people than you have going after trying to convert Trump voters.
No,
And so we've got. Let me refresh my page. As we are recording, 31.8 days until polls start to close on election night, and get out the vote is where to do it right now. Like, get those people to the polls who are leaning in a more Harris direction than a Trump direction, but who may not be who may be iffy in terms of, are they actually going to vote, and get those people to actually vote. That the effort needs to be at this point, I think. And that's what I got. I don't know. Anything else election wise to talk about?
No, we got nothing.
You mentioned the purge day. The one other thing, and we've mentioned this before, I just want to say it again. Donald Trump's ability to be coherent is continuing to be really, really low. And seemingly getting worse as we get closer to the election, and Vance keeps pissing people off. But it doesn't, just like everything else, it doesn't seem to be. It's not like Trump makes an incoherent speech and suddenly he loses 5% in the polls.
No. I mean, he keeps confusing where the fuck he is.
It still continues to be like, if you moving to that national poll line. Well, not even. I don't know. Like, if you compare now to a couple months ago, both Trump and Harris have improved a couple percent. If you look not at the margin, but their actual percent. So I don't even know. I was going to say Trump is keeping his base support no matter what, and he is. Like, most of the movement over the last few months has been undecideds moving to Harris. It hasn't been Trump losing support.
Right.
And that's part of why I say do the turnout stuff, get those people out. You may convince a few Trump people on the margins, but that's not where the juice is. Get people out and excite people more. And, I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of momentum when Harris first jumped in, and then it's kind of been static. Ups and downs that are like mostly.
I mean, she definitely is polling better than where Biden was.
Oh, of course. Like I said, there was a lot of movement right at first. It's been steady. It's
right.
It's been she switching from Biden to Harris moved it from. Hold on. Moving from Biden to Harris moved it from Biden is significantly behind, but if everything goes great, he can catch up, and he still has a chance, but it's you got to grit your teeth and maybe he'll win. Moved it from that to this is a fucking toss up.
Right.
But we haven't moved to Harris is clearly leading and is, and it would be stunning if Trump won. We're not at the 2016 point where if Trump won, it would be a massive upset and everybody would be surprised. We're in a toss-up scenario where it could go any way. And I really, really wish, Harris could pull a few more points out of this and be clearly ahead before we get to election day. But I'll be honest, my gut is that we're going to be in the same position, having this same conversation about how it could go either way on the show we do right before the election.
I expect that is what we will do. Yes.
Yeah. And as we talked about too, like, popular vote's a different question. I feel pretty confident that Harris is going to win the popular vote. That's not the question here.
I get what you're saying.
Okay. Let's close it up.
Zip it.
Go to curmudgeons-corner.com. You can see all our stuff, the archive of our shows. You can listen to old shows. Please listen to old shows. They're fun. I actually listen to old shows occasionally, and You know, I get it. What's interesting to me, Yvonne, is even if I'm listening to a show from, and like I'm now 4 years behind on like the oldest show I haven't listened to, and almost 4 years. It's like the oldest show I haven't listened to is like the show after Biden was declared the winner in 2020. Okay.
Oh gosh.
But I listen to old shows, and one thing that's remarkable to me is that we'll be talking about something, and I will think to myself, oh, here's where I'm about to mention this. And then I do. Like, and I don't remember the actual specifics of the conversation, but apparently my brain is so similar because, like, I'm not replaying like my memory of the conversation. I'm replaying like if I was having this conversation now, here's what I would say, and boom, it's the same thing I actually said years ago. And or on occasion, I will remember.
You're very consistent on your positions, basically.
That's right. Or there have been some occasions where I'm like, okay, Vaughn's going to bring up this story now, and boom, there you do. So I don't know, And if you haven't listened to all of those,
Nostradamus, may.
Hey, as a curiosity, go back and listen to some of our shows during the Obama administration or something, and see what we were talking about,
I might just do that. Okay, all right. I haven't heard a replay of one of our old shows in a while. I have done it, not recently though, but I have done it for sure.
Okay. Anyway, you can find that stuff for recent shows. We've got transcripts as well. You've got all the ways to contact us, and of course, you've got a link to our Patreon where we can give us money. Yeah, I don't need to give money to myself.
We're just we'll do that Chase check fraud thing.
Yeah, we'll do that. All
right, I'm sure that won't get us into trouble.
No, not at all. We'll deposit everything we've got into the Curmudgeon's Corner PayPal, and then Patreon, and then try to take it back.
PayPal,
whatever.
PayPal,
anyway,
one of those.
Anyway, for the Patreon at various levels, we'll mention you on the show. We'll ring a bell. We'll send you a postcard. We'll send you a mug. All that kind of stuff. Or, very importantly, at $2 a month or more, or if you just ask us, we will invite you to our Curmudgeon's Corner Slack, where Yvonne and I and all kinds of other people, I mentioned Bob and Greg earlier, but there's other folks too, are chatting, sharing links, all that kind of stuff. So, Yvonne, what is something interesting and compelling from the Curmudgeon's Corner Slack this week that we have not mentioned on the show at all?
I guess I'm trying to figure out what the best thing from this is. Okay, sure. What about crowd size? 43-foot nude Trump statue erected along Las Vegas Highway.
Erected, Yvonne?
Yes, that's what the story says. Okay. The tribute to the Republican candidate leaves little to imagination. Okay. I am a naked statue of the former president titled Crooked and Obscene was created in a fenced-in lot next to I-15 north of Las Vegas, Nevada on September 28th. The statue resembles a frowning Trump and has arms attached to strings, allowing them to be moved around like a puppet. It is made of foam-covered metal rebar and weighs about 6,000 pounds, probably closer to his real weight. According to the Wrap, the piece is a bold statement on transparency, vulnerability, and the public personas of political figures. The creators who have not been identified told the outlet. So we've got a naked Trump statue somewhere. It's like this is where we are right now. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty confident right now that in any other election cycle, we have not had a 6,000-pound massive naked statue of any of the presidential candidates. I think.
I don't know. I've seen news reports and pictures of other naked Trump statues going back probably to 2015.
No. What I'm saying is of other presidential candidates, not Trump.
Not Trump.
not Trump.
Were there any naked Hillary statues going around?
Not that I recall.
Naked Biden
or Obama or Bush. I don't recall. So so that's one story.
You should start a collector's series of all the presidents and presidential candidates going back to the beginning of the Republic. Naked.
That sounds wonderful. The other thing is that we on the Curmudgeon's Corner Slack, and there's a couple of more things I'll mention. One is Clear 2 shuts down science experiments as power stores dwindle. It's crazy how far away it is and how they're still being able to milk that plutonium to keep that damn thing going. Okay. And, surprising that, I know the issues that they have with doing something with nuclear, but damn it, I mean, it really seems to be the best way to power these damn things. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, given how the longevity. And the next one is evidence of our complete stupidity and abject failure.
Our stupidity? You and me?
Yes,
oh, yes.
Ours. By some person, I guess, has this YouTube channel with 14.5 million subscribers. As far as I can tell, the only thing is a video of somebody sitting down looking like they're studying. And so it's just your companion that's doing that? Is that what it is?
They've got a series of these live streams that basically just is an animation of someone sitting at a desk working with a timer in the corner that every once in a while it takes a break or whatever, and you can sit and work with it and blah, blah, blah. And there's like music playing in the background. And they've got different versions of this channel with different styles of music, depending on what you're into and with different character. And I guess there are others that do different characters. This particular YouTube channel has the same character, I guess. But yeah, it's basically just an animation, or I presume it's either a repeating animation or they've got an AI that occasionally jiggles it or whatever. But yeah, it's just a person sitting at a desk studying, and they've got millions of people subscribed. And at any given time, if you look at the live stream, there are a few thousand people watching. Compared to, let's see, how many people are watching our live stream right now? Zero people are watching our live stream at the moment.
We are such massive failures at this. Holy fucking hell. Jesus Christ. I mean, we're literally being beaten by just a fucking animated cartoon playing music. That's it.
Yes.
They're not even saying anything.
But you get to sit and work at your computer with this person in the corner of your screen, so they're keeping you company.
I liked, not Clippy. I liked the little dog.
Oh, yeah, because you could change Clippy to be various other characters.
Yeah, I like the dog. I would like the dog back. I don't know why there's so much hate of that. I like the little dog. Give me my dog back.
Yeah, you can just talk to ChatGPT now.
No, I want my little dog. Why can't why can't Microsoft just AI infuse the fucking dog and give it back to me?
There you go. They should do that. Get on that. Well, the new AI they're working on is basically operating under the premise of they're always watching your screen and will give you suggestions based on what it sees you doing. So I don't know how people will feel about that, honestly, but some people will love it.
I don't know. I mean, what the hell? I mean, look, my fucking social security number is right now out there for everybody. My birth date, my email, my thing. I don't understand how I'm not hacked more often. Given that I could just fucking Google and find all of this in 5 minutes.
Right.
Anyway, we're done.
But would you feel good about in the corner of your screen if it really was responsive to exactly what you're doing on the screen at that moment? And more so than Clippy, not just like, hey, are you writing a letter? But like, hey, I see you're about to send that email to this person. You may want to change the tone of that because that might piss them off or something like that.
I mean, I've actually had already. I think I've seen this like feature in some different places where I've done that, and then it's like telling me that. So Yeah, sure. Whatever.
What if it was like, hey, I noticed you like this kind of porn. Would you like some more over here? There's more of that kind over here.
That's useful.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
I mean, that's useful. Sure.
I admit it is. So, okay.
Yeah.
But it's still a little creepy. Right. It's still a little creepy, but
it's a little creepy, but I don't know. Look at the things that we're doing like right now and think about it like what the hell 20, 30 years ago. You tell me about what the fuck is creepy. Okay. I mean, everybody is dating online using apps. I mean, people, when you go out to go date somebody, you're basically cyber stalking them like right now because you can. Okay.
Yeah.
Which,
you search everything about them first before you meet them in person.
Yeah. And I went and I'm checking into this hotel like on Monday that I haven't been to in a while. And they have somebody, and I'm like now like the stupid top tier guy at this hotel chain.
Right.
Their guy they have this guy that's assigned to cater to the Uber elite guys. He looked me up on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, who the hell's this guy looking at my profile? Oh, it's the guy from the hotel. He's checking out who the hell I am.
Right.
And I'm like creepy, but also I thought, well, that makes sense, so in care of. I thought that's not a bad idea.
Right. Okay.
What's what I do before I go meet somebody?
Yeah. Of course.
So anyway,
we're done. We're done. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for yet another Curmudgeon's Corner. Stay safe. Have a good week. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, that's it. Good night, Yvonne.
All right, are we uploaded? We're fully.
I'm hitting stop now. Here we go.